Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. Of course, with it being Wednesday, that means it's hump day. So hopefully everybody's getting over the hump this week. Um, Hopefully everybody's had a good week thus far. We're gonna, of course, give it a couple minutes before we get started. Give people a chance to come in. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, my cartoon watching today, of course, I was happened to be checking out, one, what, so basically saw the final Looney Tunes cartoon that featured the character Buddy, who was the second star of the series, the guy who replaced Bosco, who moved on to with harmonizing, moved on to MGM and predating Beans the Cat, and obviously, some of the more famous characters that would come later, like Porky Pig and Bugs Bunny. So, anyways, um, let's see, just checking one more time here. Let's see. And just, of course, as always, just trying to get the word out. As always, said, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Let's see now. All right, well, we got three people in here now, so I guess I'll go ahead and get started on talking about what's on tap for tonight. So I do have three articles I'm going to go over from Bounding into Comics. Tonight, once again, we got the three articles that are based on anime related stuff, including they are now going to be so they're now developing an occult RPG adaptation for Serial Experiments Lane, which is a manga, and which is kind of a dark, surreal manga slash anime from back in the 90s. There, we'll be looking at that. A Japanese voice actor gets recast after bringing public attention to China's persecution of the Uyghurs. I guess that's how you pronounce it. We'll be looking at that story as well as One Punch Man anime production concerns reignited following confirmation that season 3 trailer was produced by Lone Animator. So we'll see what all that's about. So those three stories we'll be going over tonight. Plus, of course, wrestling wrap up. Get caught up on last night's NXT. Look ahead to tonight. Hey, Rick. Hey, neighbor. Hey, neighbor. What do you mean by neighbor? What are you back here? Are you in California right now or something like that? Thought you were up in Canada there, my friend. Uh let's see. Of course, as I was just saying, we're going to be we're going to be of course going over, as I said, last night's the U.S. is Canada's. Well, that's true too. Yeah, you're right there. We are neighbors in that respect. You're right there, Rick. Anyways, so as I said, with the wrestling wrap up, we're going to look at last night's NXT, see what went down there. Also, look ahead to tonight's AEW Dynamite. We'll also wrap things up with this day in each history. So with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started then? Hey, first, figure out how to. All right. Let me go ahead and pull up the first article we'll do tonight. Well, share this. And as always, feel free to comment and or ask questions if anything here grabs your attention. Serial Experiments Lane to receive occult RPG in quotes there adaptation with blessing from original writer. Quote, I couldn't help but think the experiment is still going. Unquote. Article by Spencer McCooley, published on March 18th, which of course was yesterday. Now let's take a look at this. Um, After years of dormancy, and in parentheses here, and to the genuine surprise of even the series' most diehard fans, unparentheses, it's time for the Serial Experiments Lane franchise to make another trip back to the Wired, as the iconic psychological horror series is receiving a new entry and officially endorsed, quote, occult RPG, unquote, adaptation, uh, double backslash signal dot. Okay. So Serial Experiments Lane, as I said, was a dark psychological. Basically, the idea is what happens when you get lost in cyberspace, basically. So when you get mentally lost in cyberspace, it's um, and then here's a picture of Lane, who is voicing the Japanese by Kaori Shimizu, looks over her new family in Serial Experiments Lane, episode 13, layer 13, back in 1998 from Triangle staff. So based on a story by noted anime producer Yasuyuki Ueda, whose credits include uh, Techno, Technolives and Hellsing, and written by Digimon Tamers and Ultraman Taiga scribe Chiaki J. Konaka. Serial Experiment Lane centers on the titular Lane Iwakura, an introverted middle school aged girl who struggles to fit in either at home or among her larger group of peers. However, her dreary life is quickly turned upside down when she receives an email from her late friend, Chisa Yamoda, claiming that she didn't die, but rather gave up her physical body to permanently link with in smaller quotes here, the Wired, essentially a physical representation of the collective communication networks that humanity has engaged with throughout its existence. Um, from the very first telegraph to the current incarnation of the internet. So basically, for all intents purposes, the Wired was basically cyberspace. For all intents and purposes, that's pretty much what it was. Um, uh, all right, so let's get back to the article here. Eventually making her way into the Wired in search of her friend, Lane soon finds herself wrapped up in a psychological roller coaster that sees her used as a vehicle to explore a number of high level and emotional philosophical concepts such as the human need for connection, the intertwining relationship between technology and mankind, and the theory that reality is not objective but an endlessly malleable experience whose outcome is influenced by one's own perceptions. All 13 of its episodes, produced by the now shuttered animation studio Triangle staff of Macross Plus fame, in parentheses there. Macross Plus, for those who don't know, is basically the Japanese version of Robotech. The series also received a video game adaptation courtesy of Pioneer LDC, now NBC Universal Japan. Released for the PS1 following the conclusion of the anime's original run, the similarly titled Serial Experiments Lane saw the show's creative team deliver a psycho stretch where, quote unquote, title, in other words, a visual novel-esque experience aimed at helping players connect with Lane and understand the Wired's existence. Lane accesses the Wired for the first time in the show 1998. So, sadly, after receiving a manga side story set in the game's continuity, The Nightmare of Fabrication, in 1999, and a Blu-ray remaster in 2009, Serial Experiments Lane has essentially been relegated to the dustbin of history. And while that may seem like a bit of hyperbole, consider the fact that in 2018, when met with a rising demand from Japanese players for a re-release of the PS1 game, NBC Universal Japan declined to do so and instead announced the Lane Time to Live open source project. Created in partnership with Ueda, the project, quote, granted permission for individuals residing in Japan to use derivative works based on the animated series, Serial Experiments Lane, hereinafter, in parentheses, hereinafter, referred to as the work, quote unquote, unparenthesed, free of charge regardless of whether the use is commercial or non-commercial, with no need for quote unquote supervision or approval. So basically, they just pretty much just said, you know, son, you guys like it so much, here, just go ahead and take it. You know, we don't see any marketability in this project, so in this property. So here, just here it is. Have fun with it. That's basically what it seems like they pretty much said. Disappointing as this move was at the time, it is by way of this project that fans will now be receiving their first official piece of Serial Experiments Lane media in decades. /signal. Created by indie developer Team MJM as a sequel to the original PS1 game, /signal in period in brackets here. This period is not a typo, but rather part of the official name, unbracketed. Will take the form of an quote occult RPG and pick up right in the aftermath of the original, inviting players to explore with both The Real World, and The Wired in the hopes of finding more answers as to Lane's new existence. Quote, since its release in 1998, we have lived in the omnipresent world of Lane, sometimes feeling her presence, yet both she and the original work remain shrouded in layers of mystery, unquote, reads Team MJM's official press release. Quote, who is Rei Iwakura? What is Lane? Um, Discover a new side of these questions through Signal. Um, in this game, you will interact with original characters, collect quote unquote past logs as event records, and rebuild lost connections. Why do these connections need to be reconstructed? Why were they lost in the first place? Perhaps clues can be found with diaries and emails, unquote. Sounds kind of like a pretty interesting game. And that visual right there kind of reminds me of the old dot hack sign series. I remember some of the graphics in that. Some of the cover art for Signal 2025 MJM. Notably far from just an in smaller quote official work under the Lane Time to Live guidelines, Signal has also received the official blessing of Konaka himself. Quote, Serial Experiment 2025, unquote, said the writer in an official statement as shared in image form and translated by Automaton Media. Quote, new and nostalgic, the archetype for Serial Experiments Lane was a PS game. Although many requested for it to be re-released, the producer Ueda had adamantly refused, instead issuing a limited time license for Lane, TTL, in parentheses there, and saying, quote, if you want it, make it yourselves. Yeah. Well, if I understand correctly, I don't know if Serial Experiments Lane was initially very popular to begin with. I mean, it had its following and stuff like that, but it was probably one of those I think was kind of under the radar a bit. Quote, however, I'd be skeptical as to whether there were really fans out there who would volunteer to create a new Lane game, unquote, he admitted. Quote, then the Signal project appeared, and although it went through a period of radio silence, it has at last been developed into a product. It incorporates elements of the anime that was released following the original game too, but when I saw the new art of Toko, in parentheses here, Lane's psychiatrist from the PlayStation game, parentheses, I couldn't help but think the experiment is still ongoing, parentheses. Wow. Lane embraces the Wired in series 1998. At current, Signal is currently set to release for the Windows and Apple platforms on April 30th, with a digital release set to be offered via Steam and itch.io for 1,000 yen, which is about $7 US dollars, and a limited physical release, ostensibly only available in Japan, available through their official website for 1,700 yen or approximately $11.35. So there we go with that. So for those out there who who were fans of Serial Experiment Lane, there's something to sink your teeth into a bit there. Oh, with that being said, let's get ready. Let's see. Any comments here on that? All right. So let's get ready and move on to the next piece of next article here that we're going to cover here. All right, and in a example, what could be cancel culture over in Japan here, I guess. After bringing public attention to China's persecution of uh, Uyghurs, Japanese voice actor abruptly recast in Genshin Impact, Arknights, and Omioji. Article by Ryan Pearson, published March 18th, which of course was yesterday. So let's take a look at this here and see what's going on. Seemingly out of nowhere, veteran Japanese voice actor Shotaro Morikubo has been replaced in his respective roles in Genshin Impact and Arknights. And though the game's respective developers are keeping coy about the situation, fans speculate this development was the result of his drawing attention to China's ongoing persecution of their Uyghur population. Now, maybe you guys can correct me on this, but I'm guessing Uyghur must be some kind of indigenous people or something. So, if you guys can explain that, that'd be cool. Perhaps best known for lending his voice to such characters as Shikamaru in Naruto Shippuden, and the titular fighting robots in 2001 Kikaider 01, the anime OVAs, and the Mega Man X video game series. Morikubo made his debut as a Saurian veterinarian Ifa in Genshin Impact's 5.1 update, as released in October 2024, appearing as a NPC non-player character, ahead of his upcoming release as a playable character. But on March 12th, the game's Shanghai-based developer, MiHoYo, suddenly informed players, or travelers as they are referred to in-game, that the voice, quote, has had to withdraw due to various circumstances, unquote. Quote, we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience this may cause to all related parties, unquote, wrote the devs, as machine translated by ChatGPT. Quote, additionally, we deeply apologize to all travelers for any trouble or concern this may bring. We sincerely apologize for any inconvenience this may cause to all related parties, unquote. 2 days later, a similar announcement was made by Arknights, likewise Chinese developer Yostar, who informed their player base that the Elysium voice actor, quote, will be stepping down due to various circumstances, unquote. That's usually something somebody might say if they don't want to actually say what the real reason is, because if they say the real reason, then that's going to probably cause some headaches for them. Quote, we sincerely apologize to all players and related parties for any inconvenience or concern this may cause, unquote. Man, are they all using the same form letter or what? Oh boy. They added, likewise declining to provide any specifics regarding the development. Quote, details regarding the replacement of existing voice lines will be announced separately once finalized. We kindly ask for your understanding in this matter, unquote. And in delivering the hat trick, NetEase Games announced later that same day that in regards to their fantasy RPG Omioji, quote, after careful evaluation, the production team had decided to terminate the collaboration with the voice actors of the Shikigami Akashita in brackets and in brackets Garuda starting immediately, unquote. Well, at, at least with that last one, they at least acknowledged they were terminated. It wasn't like no, they had to step down. It's like they got terminated. Oh boy. Quote, the related voice lines will temporarily be adjusted to silent mode. They added, quote, we have activated an emergency plan and are actively reaching out to new voice actors who fit the character designs to complete the voice replacement updates as soon as possible, unquote. Quote, we sincerely apologize for the impact this adjustment may have on the experience of our Omioji players. We will continue to keep you informed of the latest developments at the earliest opportunity. Please stay tuned for further official announcements. Thank you for your understanding and support. Yeah, considering that, I think at least with the first two developers, they were. I don't know about the third; they didn't say, but the first two developers are Chinese. And if part of this is because he was criticizing something the Chinese government was doing, I'm sure the Chinese government was probably cracking down on these developers. That's why this happened. But let's find out more as we read on in the article here. However, despite the three developers' silence regarding exactly why Morikubo had abruptly stepped away from their respective games, Japanese players have speculated that it may have had something to do with one of the actors' recent live streams, as highlighted by such local X users as at Akamasa W and at Gingami 114514, as well as Automaton's Verity Townsend. Back in August 2024, the voice actor performed a live reading of Tomomi Shimizu's Inochigake no Shogun, in English translated as life-risking testimonies, quote unquote. The contents of which center on the Chinese Communist government's ongoing abuse of the Uyghurs living in the Xinjiang, um, autonomous region. Per organizations like Amnesty International, China's leadership is accused of engaging in the ongoing persecution, mass internment, torture, and general suppression of the ethnic minority due to their Muslim beliefs. While the government claims these actions are being done to fight terrorism, they represent another example of the country's continued war on all non-state approved religions, as the communist government believes their existence will only serve to only undermine their party's values. To this end, despite the insistence by Hypergriff, Miyoho, and NetEase Games that Morikubo had stepped down voluntarily, NetEase did not say that. If you saw earlier in the article there, NetEase outright said terminated. They didn't say he stepped down voluntarily. They said they terminated his contract. So, and the possibility that he was asked and the possibility that he was asked to leave for other reasons, many Japanese ex-users were adamant that China was to blame for this development. Quote, I see, so your resignation was influenced by your appearance in the reading play, unquote, at Taco Sensei 2019 insisted. Quote, there should be no political pressure on creative activities, and we need to take a stance that protects freedom of expression, unquote. Um, Quote, it's about the Uyghurs, unquote, um, adamantly insisted at Taku Crypto. Quote, if this game is based on affirming the real-life mass murders in China, it might be time to stop playing Genshin, unquote. Quote, is this an era where voice actors also face China risk, or where they will lose their jobs if they don't appease China, unquote, at um, at Emo Curie 3 Taro asked. Let's see if anybody in here. Hey, Fitzsim. Hello. The Fitzschmooze Corner. Hello, Fitzschmooze. Welcome to the Mikestand. I don't know if you've been here before or not, but if I remember correctly, you're usually over on the vomitorium, right? Well, welcome to the Mikestand. I hope you'll enjoy the content here, during the news reporting here that we're doing. Fitz Show Zo. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Fitz Show Zo. All right. Never been here. Well, I'm glad you decided to come to say hi. Hopefully you'll enjoy the content and come back, and well, even think about subscribing and stuff to where you can get the notifications when I'm going to be on here. So, anyways, let's get back to the article here. And of course, if you haven't already, if you can help out by liking and sharing the screen, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if as I'm going through this, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So with that, let's get back to the article here. So at No Audio proposed, quote, Japanese people who play this game should wake up. Chinese games are not afraid to involve politics. Paying for this game is like funding China, unquote. In terms of Genshin Impact going forward, IFA will now be voiced by Junta Terashima, in parentheses here, who provided, I guess, the voice of Hyoga Yukimura in Inazuma 11 Go, unparentheses. The character had been mentioned by others across the Natlan storyline in Genshin Impact before being heard, in parentheses here, but not seen, parentheses, unparentheses, in version 5.1 during a flashback in the Archon Quest Chapter 5, Act 4. But Ifa will finally make his full appearance with his new voice actor Terashima when version 5.5 launches on March 26th, 1 week from today. So, anyways, so there we go with that. There we go with that. So let's see now. So now we will get ready to move on to the next article here. Let's see. get ready to move on to the next article. The last article we're going to be going over tonight here. Let's see what time it is. 35. Okay. One Punch Man anime production's concerns reignited following confirmation that Season 3 trailer was produced by Lone Animator. Article by Nerdigans Inc. published March 18th, which of course was yesterday. So let's get into this now. It's been nearly 3 years since its initial announcement, but at long last, the third season of the One Punch Man anime adaptation has finally received its first trailer. Wow, 3 years between seasons? Wow. I wonder what's going on there. Caused that to happen. Though sadly, the preview has brought not hype, but instead concern regarding returning animation studio JC Staff's handling of the series. Released on March 6th in celebration of the anime's 10-year anniversary, the trailer gives fans a first look at the adaptation's upcoming take on Writer 1 and artist Yusuke Murata's fan favorite Monster Association arc, which will see the Hero Association's S-Class heroes, as well as a handful of B-Class heroes, including the quote-unquote Caped Baldy Saitama, voiced in Japanese by Makoto Furukawa, who provides the voice of Doug and Lazarus, and their rival organization exploding into full-on superpowered war for the fate of Japan. Wow. Laying the groundwork, huh? Laying the groundwork for some big action there. Let's see now. While fans were initially excited for this update after the moment faded, many began to notice that despite confirming a premiere date of October 3rd, further, they also found themselves perplexed by the trailer's actual visuals, with its, in small quotes, quick montage presentation suggesting that the featured footage was not taken from the actual season, but was instead pre-animated, in parentheses, a colloquial term for any sequences animated independently from the full production, unquote. And in a sad confirmation from their previous fears regarding JC Staff's potential to drop the ball with One Punch Man Season 3, especially in light of both the currently abysmal working conditions seen across the Japanese industry and the studio's specific insistence on pumping out almost a dozen series every season, fans would eventually learn that not only was the trailer, in fact, a case of quote-unquote pre-animate or small quote pre-animation, but that its entire creation was the work of one single animator. Wow. Putting one single animator on a trailer. That, man, talk about grind. Talk about grind there. All right. Following the trailer's release, veteran animator Kazunori Ozawaone, whose credits include JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Stardust Chronicles from 2014, and the Kamen Rider W spinoff, Fudo Pai, and the latest Yurusei Yatsura TV adaptation, revealed that the studio had enlisted him to, quote, to make a PV, unquote. Quote, this time I supervised the production and did the original drawings, unquote, said Ozawaone. quote, I think I worked harder than usual because I featured the characters. Well, if you did the whole work on the, yeah, you definitely worked hard. If you basically were the only one doing that, the animation or doing the work. Let's see. Shocked by the news, One Punch Man fan at Mocho174298 inquired, quote, sorry for the inconvenience, Ozawa-san. Did you animate the PV clip alone? Unquote. In turn, the animator confirmed, quote, this time it's just one original artist, unquote. Seeking to add additional context, fellow fan at Burst Riot asked Ozawaone, quote, were you the only animation director or did you have anyone else with you, unquote. Again, confirming their solo effort, Ozawaone reiterated, quote, there is only one person involved, the original artist and animation director, unquote. Suffice to say, with this confirmation that the One Punch Man Season 3 trailer was the work of just one animator, fan optimism regarding Saitama and crew's return is in the gutter. After all, if the season is 7 months out and they have nothing to show for it, then one wonders just what the situation on the ground will be as JC staff scrambles to make their air date. As noted above, One Punch Man will return to the airwaves on October 3rd. Now, of course, that's in Japan. I don't know. They obviously haven't announced when it will come to the States, but don't know if that's going to be a simulcast or what, but I guess we'll find that out soon enough. So, anyways, so that's all for the articles tonight. So now of course, what we will do now is we'll move on to the this day in, well, not this, I'm sorry, not this. We'll move on to the wrestling wrap up. As we'll look back to last night's NXT. Get everybody caught up on what happened last night. And I also do know, I haven't seen the full extent of it. I do know that I do believe Jada Parker had possibly confronted Stephanie Baker about a potential shot at one of the titles. But let's get into this. So Chelsea Green retained the WWE Women's United States title over Sol Ruka, the opening match on the show. In a tag team match, Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura defeated Hank and Tank. In a mixed 6-person tag match, the culling of Izzy Dame, Brooks Jensen, and Nico Vance with Sean Spears in the corner defeated the D'Angelo family of Lucas Crucifino, Kenny Lorenzo, and Adrian Ruiz. Fatal Influences JC Jane with Fallon Hanley and Jasmine Nix in her corner defeated Carmen Petrovich, who had Ashante Adonis in her corner. Ricky Saints, in his first singles match on NXT, defeated Ridge Holland. And in an NXT Underground match, as part of the main event, Trick Williams defeated Eddie Thorpe. So that's all that went down on last night's NXT. As we will now get ready to talk about what's going to be going down on tonight's AW Dynamite. On tonight's Dynamite, as they continue to prepare for Revolution, you'll have the fatal four-way match to determine the number one contender to the international title. The winner of this match will be facing off against Kenny Omega for the AEW International title at Revolution on April 6th. You have, of course, two-time former international champion Orange Cassidy involved, as well as you have Ricochet, Mark Davis, and the recently debuted Speedball Mike Bailey. AR Fox is set to take on the aerial assassin Will Ospreay. Megan Bayne takes on Chris Statlander. Mercedes Moné will be defending the TBS title against Billy Sparks. And in a street fight for the AEW World title, Jon Moxley will be defending against Cope. So that's all that's going down on tonight's now, in some other news, going back to the WWE news for a moment, in some other news in regards to the WWE, so it's apparently Alexa Bliss may possibly be getting pulled from WrestleMania 41 weekend. Nobody knows why, but it was reported earlier today that she was pulled from some fan events there. So people are not sure if that means that she's not going to be involved for some reason. Nobody, but there's been no confirmation on that. So there's that. There was also a rumor that they were possibly hinting at turning Ludwig Kaiser face, but that's been kind of shot down because of the fact they're on their European tour. I think what they're doing, from what I understand, is particularly when they're in Germany, of course, Kaiser will play the face because he's German. So, but they might be looking at experimenting to see how he does as a face to see if that could be a new possible way to go for him storyline wise. But with that, let's get ready to move on to let's go ahead and move on to this day in each history. So today being, of course, Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. Let's take a look back at this day in each history. So let me just see here. All right. So the first up, I'd like to wish a happy 60th birthday. To American animator, character designer, storyboard artist, screenwriter, and voice actor Jeff Pigeon. Jeff Pigeon turned 60 years old today. He was an American animator who worked on, of course, Tiny Toon Adventures, The Simpsons, Tasmania. He was a character designer for Bakishi Animation. Also, of course, did some character designs for Ferngully, The Last Race. He was a storyboard artist, screenwriter, and voice actor for Pixar. So happy 60th birthday to Jeff Pigeon, an American animator, character designer, storyboard artist, screenwriter, and voice actor. So now moving on to the next piece of each history, as we move ahead to 1975. On this date in 1975, the NWA Mid-Atlantic title is returned to Johnny Valentine, who had demanded a review of his match with Paul Jones by NWA President Sam Munchnick, who ruled in favor of Valentine after it was found that Jones' title win came as a result of the referee not seeing Valentine put his leg on the ring rope when the referee counted the pinfall. Now, of course, Paul Jones had won the Mid-Atlantic title 10 days earlier prior to this. Now, of course, you don't see anything like this happening in today's pro wrestling where, because basically you hear every time today the referee's decision is final. If he didn't see it, he can't call it. So But you would not see something like that happening in today's pro wrestling. You know, uh, so now, getting ready to move on to the next piece, and as we move ahead to 1995, 30 years ago today, on this date in 1995, Yasuo Yamada, who is a Japanese voice actor, most famously known as the original Japanese voice for Arsene Lupin III from the Lupin the Third series from 1971 until 1995. Passed away on this date back in 1995. He was, of course, a Japanese actor, voice actor, and narrator. So on this date, 30 years ago today, Yasuo Yamada, the original voice, the Japanese original voice for Lupin the Third, passed away at the age of 62. So, and finally, on this date in 2014, 11 years ago today, as we get down to the final thing, on this day in 2014, 11 years ago today, the 20th issue of Classic Pop by Mighty W went on sale on newsstands on this date back in 2014, 11 years ago. Sold for $3.99 with 32 pages. So now with all that, I thank everybody for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, we'll be back here tomorrow with more Niche news. And don't forget, this Sunday, I'll have Metal joining me as we'll be looking back to comics that went on sale in May of 1940. This week, we'll be focusing in on Dell Comics. We'll be looking at the four color series, the fifth issue of the four color series, Smilin' Jack, which is all Smilin' Jack stories. Yeah. Bye-bye, everybody. Well, thanks for popping in this show, though. Hope to see you again soon. But with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.